We got Shakur Stevenson fighting on the undercard of Beterbiev and Bivol. It's going to be an interesting fight card because obviously Shakur Stevenson, he's used to not pay-per-viewing but main eventing. And where does that leave Gervonta Davis? You know, Shakur signs with Matchroom, allegedly, that's what they're saying, right? So he's going to be on the undercard, that co-main event, like I just said. So where does that leave Gervonta Tank Davis? Where does he fall into the mix of everything? Obviously, it's going to be a pretty hard fight to make in general. You know, I kind of knew it wasn't going to be the next fight for Tank. It wasn't going to be the next fight for Shakur Stevenson. I had a feeling that they were going to have fights, you know, that weren't each other up next. And, you know, Shakur fighting Joe Cordina, it's going to be it should be a boring fight and Shakur should win, right? I think we're all thinking that. I don't know if Shakur Stevenson can get a stoppage, but, you know, I expect Shakur Stevenson to do his thing as per usual. You know, I shouldn't see any bumps in the road. This is a guy that's typically fighting at 130, has fought at 35, where Shakur Stevenson's obviously campaigning as well, just getting used to the weight class still. Has had a few fights, so you could argue that Shakur's already, you know, got his feet wet in the lightweight division and he's ready to take on the best. And I would agree with that. I've been waiting for that Shakur Stevenson and Tank fight for a while now. I think that's the fight to make at 135. I don't know what happens with Tank now. I think he has to take a stay busy fight, and I wouldn't be mad at the Rayo Valenzuela fight. I wouldn't be mad at, you know, Pitbull Cruz rematch if it's a filler, you know, like a filler fight. You know, something for him to just stay active, stay busy. I don't want Tank to just sit out and then come out of inactivity and fight a guy like Shakur Stevenson. Even if that fight goes down, you know, at this point, you guys can probably tell I'm a little bummed out because, like, this isn't the fight I obviously wanted Shakur Stevenson to be in, but I also understand you got to build and allow these fights to get more excitement, more traction, especially now that Shakur Stevenson has made a decision. He probably wants to get used to, you know, how Eddie operates and how Matchroom operates. So having a first fight, you know, he should win this fight. He should win this fight. I'm not sleeping on Cordina. He's got some power. You know, he had that vicious knockout. But still, I think that Shakur Stevenson, you know, there's a certain style, there's a certain level of IQ and still power that you need to beat him. And I think the only one that could do it potentially is Gervonta Tank Davis. So we'll see what Tank does. Like I said before, I wouldn't be mad if he fights Pitbull Cruz. I wouldn't be mad if he fights Rayo Valenzuela. Both exciting fights. You know, he has unfinished business with Pitbull Cruz, but I feel like because Pitbull lost his fight decisively, in my opinion, to Rayo, that fight doesn't really make much sense, the Tank and Pitbull Cruz rematch. Like, I'll watch it and I'll still, you know, pay for it, but at the end of the day, I'd prefer to see Tank and Rayo. I think that shows more so like, okay, you know, those plans were ruined by Rayo, so now Rayo should be the guy. Or, you know, Tank fights Tio, Tank fights, you know, a guy at 140, because who else is there for him to fight at 35? I don't really see a big name for him. There's a Peta if they want to make that fight. I don't think that's an easy fight to make either. I don't know if Oscar can get that fight done with Tank's team. So realistically, what other options are there for Tank? I think he moves up to 40 and fights, you know, someone else, and then, you know, gets used to 140. Who knows? Maybe comes back down to 35 for Shakur Stevenson. But there's not a lot of, you know, big money fights for him when it comes to 35. If it's not Shakur Stevenson, if it's not Vasily Lomachenko, and Loma said he doesn't intend on fighting for the rest of the year. So if it's early 2025, I see Lomachenko being in the mix. But if not, then you got to go to 140. And even with the Lomachenko fight, there's a good chance people are already going to say, you know, the excuses, the fight hasn't even happened. The fight hasn't even been in negotiations, you know, further negotiations. And people are already giving excuses about Lomachenko, saying that Gervonta's ducking him, this and that. So Tank might as well just move up to 140 for his next fight and fight, you know, someone like Rayo, fight somebody like Pitbull Cruz again. I guess you could make that Teofimo Lopez fight. Devin Haney's in the mix too, but, you know, those guys, I'm not sure they'd like a fight against Tank at 140. It's just like they're outgrowing 140 already, and then at the same time, Tank's not going to go to 47 for them, so they'd probably be drained and then have to fight a guy like Tank while drained. So, and I'm talking about Devin Haney and Tio, guys that are kind of big for 140, and I don't think they're going to fight at 140 much longer for Tio, and definitely not Devin. I think Devin really struggled to make weight against Ryan Garcia, and that also in a culmination of the PEDs, Ryan Garcia's, you know, natural talent and everything, you know, just played a role in that Devin Haney fight between him and Ryan. So I don't know. I really don't know what's up for Tank Davis. You know, he's probably, yeah, Tank's probably my favorite fighter to watch just in general. You know, I like watching Terrence Crawford. I like watching Canelo. I'd say Inui's up there as well. He's probably number 2, and then Terrence Crawford is number 3. But you know, there's not a big fight at 35 that I'd like to see Tank in. As much of a Tank fan as I am, I feel like there's not much to do at 35. If it's not Shakur, then I don't really care to see him at 35. I'd prefer he just goes up to 40 and start beating those guys up, start racking up wins and clearing out that division, so he could just keep getting big fights, title fights at 140. You know, I don't see any. You know, what's the point in going back in opposition? He's already a champ at 35. If it's not, you know, Zepeda, you know, or if it's not Lomachenko, what's the point? I don't want to see Tank fight Kambosos. I'd rather Tank goes up to 140 and fights the likes of Valenzuela. If we have to see a Pitbull Cruz rematch with Tank, okay, but that doesn't really make sense for me because, you know, Rayo already beat Pitbull, so I think it should be Tank and Rayo, or, you know, if Tank isn't going to fight for a while, there's inactivity, I think Rayo should fight Teofimo Lopez. That's a big fight as well. You know, Tank could go to 140, fight Subriel Matias. There's some, you know, names up there at 140. It's just when it comes to the money fights for pay-per-view, like Tank's going to fight on pay-per-view regardless. I'm just curious to see who it's going to be. You know, who do they pick? Like, you need a good dance partner to sell, you know, decent pay-per-views. You know, obviously Tank is going to make his guaranteed money, but realistically, I think I'm just frustrated with the fact that it's like, okay, we've been waiting for the Tank fight between him and Shakur, and now that Shakur finally makes a decision, it's like, okay, now we have to, you know, have a get back fight so that we know how, you know, Matchroom operates. We could fight on DAZN. We could make it, you know, a whole event, and this can be my debut. It can't be Tank just yet. And then, you know, after he wins that, and it's like other things get in the way. So I'm not sure we'll ever see Shakur Stevenson and Tank. I'm trying to be optimistic, but it's just like the modern politics in the sport of boxing, you know, the business always gets in the way of it, and there's always unwritten, you know, rules and norms in the sport. Like, okay, it's my first fight on Matchroom, I can't fight Tank yet, this is my first fight, you know. So if that's the case, you know, is it going to happen after? If Shakur Stevenson has a great performance, is he going to start thinking he's the A-side now that he's with Eddie? He knows Turki Al-Sheikh very well. They want to make a big fight happen. They're going to hype him up, right? They're going to hype him up and then make him seem like he's the A-side. And is that going to get to his head? And does that prevent the mega fight between him and Tank, you know, from ever happening? You know, will it ever happen because of the politics? We'll see. We'll have to wait and see. But let me know in the comments who you guys think Tank should fight next as his next opponent. I think it should, you know, be Rayo personally at 140. I don't really care to see him at 35 if it's not against Shakur or Loma. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. But thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace. That's going to do it for another NASFight Media video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been your boy, Matt Nabong, with another video. Hope you guys enjoyed it all. Thank you guys for the constant support. Salute to y'all always. It's been your boy.